Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Isaac Melber. Looking forward to our conversation today, Isaac.
Yeah,
Uh,
Simon, I'm
yeah.
so excited. So,
Yeah. So, listeners, we're recording this on Saturday, 23rd of May, and it's the day that Isaac has actually released his book out into the world. So, well done, my friend. Well done.
yeah, yeah, definitely exciting. So, I pray
Good
that
on you. Good
it
on you.
increases many.
Yeah. Um, you're just a youngster still, right? To write a book.
Yes, yeah, I'm 20 years old, so
20 years
in
old.
college.
Wow. In college. So, people who are eagle-eyed or eagle-eared listeners may remember I interviewed Isaac's dad a while back, David. So there'll be a link in the show notes to his interview. And we'll just dive in with Isaac. So, I'm going to start slightly differently, right? So, what's the biggest thing or the biggest things that you've discovered about thriving by writing your book, Isaac?
Man, the idea of thriving, I mean, obviously, when you think the idea of thriving, it kind of comes in waves, if that makes sense. I mean, sometimes you feel like everything's going well, and then other times you're thinking, man, boy, what's going on with life? And, as I wrote this book and as I kind of thought through the process, I wanted to highlight just mile markers in my life. I mean, mile markers that where, things are great, and then things just might be just kind of questioning. And, I think as I got older, especially when I came to America at the age of 5, so young age, could still remember things. And, at a young age when you can remember things, the idea of thriving kind of, you just kind of question. I mean, this is just not the way that I want life to be. And, as I wrote, like I said, I try to have mile markers that share, hey, this is a monumental moment. And so I think I believe that there's seasons of thriving, but in our world, in our time, in our life, it just seems like all we want to do is thrive. And when something kind of doesn't go our way, we want to just ponder on it and just forget about it. And I think a lot of this book, a lot of this writing is to show the fact that, one hard moment does not define your thriving. That you can continue to thrive. It's not just a momentary thing.
Yeah. So, listeners, just in case you don't know, right, Isaac was actually born in Ethiopia, and you
I
lost
was.
your parents
Hmm.
within the first couple of years of life, and then you were in an orphanage, right?
I was an orphanage, yes, for about a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, one hard moment, there must have been lots of hard moments as a kid because,
Yes,
yeah,
there were.
so young.
Hmm. Yep. But I still can remember a decent amount of it, but I mean, there's a lot of times when it comes to hard moments, for some reason in life we want to remember the hard moments more than the happy ones. But obviously living in an orphanage and kind of being in a place where kids aren't supposed to be. You always remember more. And when I share my story, I don't want to be the type of person that's always kind of down and thinking I just went through a hard time and kind of down on my story, because I always believe that there's always good. But with a hard beginning, there are hard moments and hard things that you just don't want to remember. And in life, I want to be someone who's positive. And, I think at the beginning, I wanted to remember my story as sad, but the more I thought about it, there's happiness to it. But, moments like, in an orphanage, you get to see things that you don't want to see. I mean, you have kids who are, 18 and then newborns, and I'm with 13, 14-year-olds doing 13 and 14-year-old things. I'm 5 years old. I'm looking at these things. I'm thinking, first of all, I probably shouldn't see this. I probably shouldn't do this. But I'm put in a situation where else could I be? I'm in an orphanage with a bunch of kids, and I like to share this story of when I first encountered a needle, which is kind of funny. A needle, something I'd never seen, and I thought it was terrible, but it was a vaccination, and moments like that kind of made me realize, I got a little shot. I ran around. My friends went crazy. Uh, it's a hard moment. It's traumatic. Like, for example, I don't like getting shots now. I just, every time someone does a shot, I always want to look at it to make sure that, it went in and I'm safe and everything. But there are moments like that. And then just kind of physical stuff as well. I mean, when it comes to I don't know how to say discipline. My way of, someone loving me in the orphanage is a little different than I am now with my parents, where, you know, I don't have any connection with these people. I'm staying here for a little while. I don't know them very well, and they're disciplining me, and that just kind of always went in my mind. And I remember when my dad went on the podcast about a year back, actually, he said, we had to discipline our kids in a different way because there's things that are hard, paths that are hard, and obviously it's a hard moment, but I think as a Christian, I like to think that God used it for a very good reason. So
Yeah. Because there were times that you didn't want to be in the States, right? You wanted to be back in Ethiopia, and
I did.
it was more than just times. It was like a
Hmm.
period of your life, right? If I
Yes,
remember
yeah.
rightly from a conversation a couple of months back.
Yes, yeah, yes. I mean, at the beginning, I mean, I always tell people, I mean, I'm a 5-year-old going from people that look like me, that spoke my language, and then to a place where everyone's in America, a lot of people are white, you see all these cultures kind of mixed together. And when I first came home, first when you don't know your story and how the things that happened, you just think maybe I wanted to go back, and I thought I want to go back over and over, and I kind of neglected my parents' love in many ways, but they kept loving me, and that changed forever. And for the first, I'll say 2, 3 years, I just thought, what could have been? What could have been? I could be playing soccer with my best friend, my friends that I actually went to the orphanage with. They lived in my village. I could be back with them. I could be with my uncle, my aunt, my sister that was alive at the time, and I just kind of lived in the past, and that just pushed me back a lot. So when you ask the thriving question, a lot of times when you want to thrive, you must move on. I mean, you must move on from these things. Don't forget them, but you must grow from them.
Yeah. Do you remember the moment when you realized you didn't want to go back?
It there's a story that I share with people oftentimes about my dad, and I remember this moment because it changed my perspective of his love for me forever. And as a Christian, I believe it points to the love the God the Father has for me. So oftentimes when, let's say that I didn't want to go to sleep when I was told to, I would be angry. And my dad said, "Hey, Isaac, go inside." I didn't want to. And oftentimes I thought he didn't like me. So if you would remember my past, my trauma, the things that I've seen where when someone was disapproving of me, that means they don't like me. And in a lot of ways, I thought that's what my dad did. But he didn't. He loved me. He said, "Hey, it's raining outside. Go inside." Stuff like that. But I remember this one time, my dad would oftentimes say, "Isaac, you need to come out of your bed." So oftentimes I would hide under my bed. So my way of pushing back was hiding under beds, being silent, not talking to anybody, just leaving, being left to myself. But this one day, my dad he came to my room. I would hide under this bed. I mean, this bed was really tiny. I mean, my dad is 6 foot, 6'1", and it would be weird for a grown man to bend down and grab his kid. And in that moment, I thought he's not gonna come and get me. He's not gonna come and get me. I'm thinking he won't do it. And he said, "Isaac, come out." And oftentimes I share that he would use humor. He said, "Hey, I'll make you a cheeseburger. I'll make you this. I'll do that," to kind of bribe me. But
Yeah.
it wasn't working. But this one moment, he he bent down. He looked at me. He said, "Hey, Isaac, come out." I said, "No." And then he said one more time. I said, "No." And then he did the craziest thing. This grown man got on his knees, picked me up. He grabbed me tightly. Remember the ground scratchy. I mean, everything's
Yeah.
scratchy. I mean, he had shorts on. He's scratched up, but yet he went and grabbed his son and he grabbed me tightly. And in that moment, I stopped squirming. I stopped kicking. I stopped crying, and I realized that my dad loves me. And in that moment, I thought, man, I'm loved by my family, and most importantly, my dad always pointed to me that I was loved by God, and that was when I felt secure. And then the day I became a Christian, that was kind of a catalyst. It was a catalyst to me becoming a Christian. And then, maybe a year or so later, I became a Christian and changed my perspective on everything. So
Yeah.
that's just kind of a defining moment.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things one of the things that you said is that it changed, that moment changed your perspective.
Hmm.
Uh, and for me, it insights, right? Epiphany
Mhm.
moments, to use a religious word.
Right.
It's they change our perspective. They change our perspective.
Hmm.
We don't change the perspective. The
Mm-mm.
change is done by, it's not done by us.
Mm-mm.
It's not done by us. We don't make it happen. You know, you didn't write in your school book or whatever, or on the back of your
Mhm.
sneakers box,
Mm-mm.
I must love my family.
Yeah. Mm-mm. It's
The
happened.
perspective change happened for you, kind of
Mhm.
almost despite you, right?
It was indeed. I try to push back as much as I could. And, I always, I shared this with my parents. I told him, hey, I remember when I first came home, it's like my mind wanted to, I knew I was in a good situation. When sometimes when you knew something was great, but you didn't want to accept it. And I didn't want to accept it. I mean, anytime I'll be really happy. When I let people see me happy, I go right back to, being, oh man, I don't want to be here. So just constantly the feeling, the idea that, oh, this is great. But guess what happened to me, And like you said, it's right. All this happened kind of despite my, my lack and desire of things to go well.
Yeah. It's very big for me, is this, because we hear a lot of talk about kind of mindset and mindset shifts,
Hmm.
but we don't make those set shifts happen. They happen despite us. We can't kind of make them happen.
Hmm.
Um, it's when we kind of like when we see a new truth.
Hmm.
Um, and I I really don't know why it's such a big deal for me for this, but it seems pretty big somehow that we've kind of because the implications I think is we've got to put ourselves in insight's way.
Hmm.
We can't make the shift happen. The shift happens. Uh, I heard I can't remember the exact word, so I'll shift on. I had another question that came to me because when we talked last time, you shared that when you were young, you were a keen wrestler, and then you
Hmm.
had this bad, was it broken arm or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
broken arm, the ulna
broken
and the
arm.
radius.
Yeah, and and that led you to some big shifts.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit more about that, Isaac?
Yeah, so I think our past and our stories they prepare us for moments that are hard. I mean, that moment that I broke my arm. I mean, I I thought life is going great. Yet again, the idea of thriving, it's not just a moment, it's a continual thriving where it's a mindset where you continually have to think, hey, look, this is my definition of success. This is my definition of thriving. And in my mind, in that moment when I broke my arm, I had plans. I mean, I wanted to wrestle in college. I wanted to be a college wrestler. Uh, I had so many th ideas and plans going. I obviously wanted to win a state tournament. I mean, my team was really good. Individually, I was a pretty good wrestler as well, and I just wanted that to happen. But just in that moment, my mind was everything was done. I mean, it's no different than Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, breaking his leg. And after he broke his leg, he just wasn't the same. I mean, it's hard. And in that moment, I just thought my success is done, my career is done. But in that moment, it reminded me that I have something greater, which is God. Which God is the one that led me to the situation, and He allowed this to happen. But I can either live in pity, self-pity, or live in the idea that I love to say that we live in a story, a bigger story than the moment that we are right there. And in that moment, I went to a school called Carson University. Instead of wrestling, I went there, and now I am there right now, preparing for pastoral ministry, preparing to make God known. And that moment that might have been tragic, it changed my perspective on life. It changed my direction as well. And I can't thank God more. I'm gonna be honest. Do I want a broken arm? No. Does it still hurt right now? Yes. But I believe in a God, often uses our pains and our past for greater purposes.
Yeah.
So,
So it gives you a choice then, really.
hmm
Um, One of the things I've been talking about quite a lot is a a foster mum laying out a choice to uh, older older kids, teenage kids
hmm
that she was uh, yeah fostering, and saying to them like, I'm not denying I'm not
hmm
denying your trauma.
hmm
I've had my own trauma too, but you've got a choice. You can succumb
Yep.
to the trauma,
hmm
or you can rise above it.
That's it. Indeed.
And whenever I find myself, whenever I share that bit of story, I I see the choice,
hmm
and I I also think, what would happen if I did, if I said some, if I that went into an adoptee Facebook group
hmm
and said that we have a choice. Yeah, right. You
It,
listeners, you can't
yeah.
see Isaac's face, right? But he, yeah, there was a kind of like, what is this thing about? What is this thing about
hmm
choice? Why is it like it's so big,
hmm
and yet we push back against it. I
hmm
mean, we fight against it. We argue against it. We argue for our trauma.
hmm
We blame it. We see our victimhood in that,
hmm
and nobody would do that on purpose, right?
No, it just happens.
So where does the choice come from? How do we see the choice?
Well, like you said, the idea that you need to realize there is a choice, I mean, without realizing that, I can go right or I can go left, it's really hard to pick. And, you know, a lot of my message, the things that I want to share with people is that, we're not victims, but we're victors, you know? A victim mentality leads to self-pity. It leads to just, what kind of woe is me? And when people realize, someone has to tell them, I mean, in my life, someone had to tell me that I can live a victorious life. I mean, it's especially as a young kid, someone had to tell me, and my mom told me, and my dad told me. They said, "Hey, Isaac, you can live a victorious life, and it's a choice, and that choice is there for all of us. I mean, all
Yeah.
of us have the opportunity to figure out what we want to do, and oftentimes we don't we don't get into situations by accident. We do it by a purpose." And in my life, I'm in this mindset because my parents at a young age told me, Isaac, you can hold your own destiny. You can choose to do things because obviously our the things we do have consequences. That's why, hey, don't do this, don't do
Yeah.
that. But when you realize you have a choice, you can hold on. And especially as someone I was adopted, and many of those who are adopted and kind of the foster care system, when you realize that you have a choice in life, it changes everything.
But not all of us here, we're told that we've got a
hmm
choice,
hmm
but not all of us hear
hmm
that. There's a big
Yep.
difference between what somebody says
Yep.
and what lands within us. So
hmm
what's the difference that makes the difference? Whether we hear the message or we don't.
Uh, Oftentimes people they just shut it down. I mean, years of kind of shutting it down over and over, you become numb to it. If that makes sense. I mean, as human beings, we often become bitter, and I believe bitterness is the beginning of uh, not hearing. I mean, I can be talking to you right now, but if I'm not intentional of what you're saying, then is it gonna matter? No different than a high schooler in school listening to a teacher, and uh, you know, they can hear, in a
Yeah,
class they can hear so many other things. The person on the right hears, X equals Z. The other one person hears the opposite, and it's usually the one who's listening. And oftentimes bitterness starts and it builds up. Our hearts get hardened and it shuts down the things that are good.
yeah,
And oftentimes for adoptees and people, it just years and years of just pushing it down. No different than when I was younger. Oftentimes I like to hold my emotions down. When I was 6 years old, I hold my emotions down. But when I let it out, uh, I let things out, and it just builds up.
yeah,
But the sad part is that, a kid, let's say two kids are in two families where mom and dad are saying, "Hey, you have a choice. You have a choice." Well, then why does one live in a victorious manner and why does one live in a victim mentality manner? And I believe it's a mystery oftentimes. It is. It's definitely a mystery. But oftentimes kids and people, they're not told they have a choice. Not indirectly, not personally.
yeah,
They hear this big, dream big. It's like in America. I mean, America, you dream big, do all this. But those who grab onto it are the ones that have been intentionally mentored by somebody.
yeah. I'm gonna take a guess here that you didn't believe when the first time that your mum or dad said that you've got a choice. I'm gonna take a guess that you didn't believe them. But I mean, this is going back a long time, right? So,
Yeah. No, I did
so
not.
you didn't. So, to use your words, was there a moment when your heart softened? Was that moment when your dad pulled you out from underneath the bed? Was that the ultimate heart softening moment? It doesn't sound like a very nice thing to do, actually, to pull the kid out by
Hey,
their ankle, right?
oh, yeah, yeah. Well, the kid was he grabbed me by obviously just like a hug, like a little bear hug. So I mean,
Okay.
he was just hugging me,
Okay.
because often, when you in life you want to feel secure, and what is more secure than a 6 foot man hugging his son, hugging his adopted son, and but that was a picture of it. But the moment that changed was when I became a Christian. You know, I'm a believer. I'm a Jesus follower, and uh, you know, my moment, my deal was the question that many people that believe in a God have. Why would a good God put a kid in a situation like this? So that was kind of my mentality. I mean, my mentality was I can't trust him. I can't believe him. I mean, this God would put me in a situation. He let my mom die, my dad die, my grandpa die. He let my brother die. So pain and death was everywhere. But I remember one night when I became softened to it, it was actually reading the Bible. I read the Bible over and over, and it just became something that I just could believe in. And I remember my eyes were not open, meaning I just didn't really understand it. But one night I had a dream. And in that dream, a man in a white robe told me to follow him. And I thought, man, this is creepy, weird. I don't know what's going on. This is weird. And then I wake up in the morning and I told my brother the story, and he said, Isaac, maybe that's Jesus telling you to follow him. And I thought he's crazy. But if you fast forward a week later, my mind was still thinking, is this Jesus who he says he is? Does God actually really love me? And I got to a verse, Romans 8:28, and it says, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. In that moment, I realized God loves me. He really truly loves me. Even a orphan in a place where death was prevalent, he still loved me. And that's when my heart softened. My heart softened because I realized that I was a part of a bigger story of a God who's big.
Yeah. A bigger story, a different story.
The same, so God, and God is big. And for those of us who believe in a God, he's big. He's bigger than any of us. He sees things, he does things. And I had to realize the fact that this God was big and I get to be part of his story. at the beginning, I want to think I was the story itself. That I've been wronged, everyone's wronged me, that God wronged me. But I had to realize that I'm in his story. I'm not my own. I'm a part of his story that he wrote, and I was so glad to be a part of it. But prior, I was not happy. But in that moment, I realized, man, I'm part of a bigger story and a bigger plan. I can see just a little bit. I mean, I have, I need glasses. I really do need glasses in real life. I need glasses. My vision is terrible, but I believe that God and his bigness and his eyes are so clear, he can see so far
Yeah,
away. And I realized, well, I can believe in this all big, all powerful God.
yeah. Um, do you need glasses for the computer or for distance or what?
Usually, yeah, I'm nearsighted, so
Right.
anything far, it just does not look good to me.
Okay. Okay. Because I've had this idiom playing on my mind for quite a few years now, and I've never really explored it with anybody else. But the idea it's based on this short-sighted, long-sighted thing, right?
Hmm.
So if we can't see distance,
Hmm.
we know we can't see it, right? We know that we can't see beyond it. We that it's blurred in the distance, so we know, right? We've got to come back. But if it's the other way around, we think that we like so. If I so for example, if I share, I wear glasses just
Hmm.
for the computer. I don't wear glasses
Right.
for long distance, right? But I can shave in the mirror
Hmm.
without my glasses on,
Hmm.
and I can't see the hairs.
Hmm.
I can't see the hairs that I've missed.
Hmm.
So, it, but I can't see them. But I don't know that they're
There.
there.
Hmm.
And this somehow feels important to me. A, a better or a simpler metaphor of that I think kind of sums up what I'm saying
Hmm.
is what a mentor of mine once said is it's hard to see the picture when we're in the frame.
Hmm.
So
Indeed.
it's the kind of like the self-awareness stuff
Yep.
is the tricky part, right?
Yes.
And the hairs right under my nose are the
Hmm.
ones that I
Can't see.
can't see. I haven't got a question. I guess the question is, to what extent does that seem true to you or not?
Uh, you know, the idea that we are finite as human beings, and there's an infinite being, and I had to come to the realization that I don't have to know everything. In my, for example, in the book, I talk about the idea that I don't have to know everything. I really don't, because when I become obsessed about knowing everything, I try to control the narrative. I try to let things in my past control me. And the natural thing is to figure everything out. A lot of the book is reunification. I mean, I reunify with my birth family. I get to see all these things, and even still, then I feel like, oh, I don't have everything figured out, you know? And you become so obsessed of, the little whiskers right under your, under this one little thing that there's even more that you don't even notice, and you become so obsessed. And I don't want to live in like an obsessive way, because I feel like when we realize that we're finite and there's someone who's infinite, or just in your life where you can do so much in your life. There's so much that you can do. You have to leave the rest up
Yeah,
to your caregiver or even anybody else. And once you realize that you're not obsessed with certain parts, because identity is a big thing that I struggle with, obviously, but it's a big thing that I push an idea that your identity, you don't need to just go around trying to figure all these things out. You just need to know who you are, and that will take care of itself. Because oftentimes the subtitle is a story of two worlds, or two families, two worlds, and then one redeeming love. Oftentimes, for someone who's adopted, you're thinking, hey, which family do I choose? Do I pick my adopted one or my biological one? And you just feel like you are constantly are looking for things that aren't even there, and you become obsessive. So just like in that picture that you showed with a mirror, I mean, oftentimes we fix our minds on things that we forget the whole picture, you know?
Yeah. Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, Interestingly, there's a adoptee that I interviewed a while back, and 600 odd episodes. I can't remember everybody's name. Uh, but I saw something on social. He's his birth family are Moroccan, right? So
Okay.
that's not too far away
No.
from Britain. Right? I mean, well, not in American distances, but you know, even
Mhm.
it's not too far. But
Right.
he's back there, and I wonder whether he keeps going back. He's
That's
still
awesome.
trying
Yes.
to track them down, and I'm wondering, will that, if he ever finds them,
Hmm.
will that bring him peace?
Mm.
Uh, can he find peace,
Mm.
or can peace find him? Right?
Yeah. Right. One or
Can
the
peace
other.
find can peace find him
Hmm.
without the resolution
Right.
of that issue, or is he going to be searching forever? Um,
Hmm.
and and as I share that question, I think about the parable of the, what's it called, the favorite son. What's it called? The lost
The
son.
lost son,
Yeah,
the lost son,
yeah.
who's, yeah,
Can you share it?
as in, oh, of the
Yeah.
son. So there was a father and two sons, and obviously there's an inheritance, and are you tracking the same one?
It's the one,
Oh, the
the
lost
guy that
coin.
goes the guys that goes the guy that goes out into the world.
Yeah, and then kind of destroys his
Uh,
life and everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
yeah. So yeah, there's a father and two sons, and one of the sons wanted in his inheritance. He said, Father, I want my inheritance right now." And the father says, "Hey, you can wait." And he said, "No, I want it right now." So the father gives him what he wants. And he goes back and, takes all of his money. And what the Bible says, he squanders it. He squanders it for just vain gain, meaning things that just are not going to satisfy him. So he went to parties, he did all the things you can think of. And then next thing you know, he loses all of his money. And in the story, he's in a pig pen, and a pen where he's with pigs, feeding pigs. And he says, "Man, I got better treated with my father as his servant than what I am right now." So he said, "You know what? I'm gonna go back to my father. I'm gonna go back to him and say, 'Forgive me.'" And the the son walks to his father, and the story goes, the father is standing out, and the son was so far away, and the father sees his son, and the father runs to his son and hugs him. Obviously,
Yeah,
the parable, a picture of God. No matter what you do, no matter what you've done, you can come to me. And obviously, the son was not satisfied, but God is the one who satisfied him.
yeah, yeah. So I wonder whether that guy will find peace, or that, as you say, that peace will find that guy.
Yeah.
And how does peace, find us, um,
Yeah.
when we've got all these questions?
Right.
I think it comes from you've what you said 5 minutes ago, is kind of
Hmm.
letting it go,
Hmm.
realizing that we can't know everything.
Yes. Hmm.
At peace with not knowing.
Yep. Peace with uh, having your arms out, saying I can't, I can't control anything, I can't control everything, but the things that I can control, I will do it gladly.
Yeah.
I pray that many people would, decide to do that.
Because a lot of people, a lot of adoptees have a lot of questions.
They do. I did, and I still do, honestly. I did and I do.
What was the difference that land was there a period where you were um, wrought on answers? I don't know if that's the right word. Like desperate for answers? Was there a period at which you were desperate for answers? Yeah.
Yes. Definitely. Man, a lot of my, ages, I came home about 5. I mean, 5 years old. From 5 to 8, obviously, you just thought about the past. Like I said, I spoke the language still briefly. I mean, I had the customs, I had everything that was, me, my past. And, when about fourth grade started, which was about age 9 to 10, that's when and kind of on into middle school as well, on to middle school, because that's when you can, in psychology, that's when you can deeply think more on things, a 5-year-old's thinking, what am I gonna have for food, right now a 12-year-old's thinking, they're thinking more concrete, more deep thoughts. And as I got older, my mind kind of deepened. I just thought I really, really want to see my family over and over and over. And, it got to the point where, I would cry at night. Obviously with my parents passed away, I cried at night. I cried over and over. My bed was wet with tears. Cried over and over, thinking, why can't I see them? Why can't I see them? And I championed my parents because they did their best to give me information. But I wanted it so bad that I would turn on music and cry my tears away, and that I couldn't cry anymore. Just cry until I couldn't cry. But when I could deeply think about, me thinking I can finally go back, that's when I got so desperate. I got so desperate. But when I got to high school, my identity kind of, you know, who I am really obviously deepened, meaning who am I really? I mean, I always say, am I Isaac Melber? Am I my Ethiopian name, Mesretu Belete? What am I? Who am I? And that even pushed it more. When identity becomes a big point, you just become so desperate. And at the age at high school, I just eventually just let things go. I just thought, you know what? Eventually, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna get all these answers, but it's not right now. And the crazy part was my reunification, going to see my birth family. It was supposed to happen during COVID. The world shut down, so I
Yeah.
couldn't go. So imagine this: at age 5, I came home. For 10 years, I had this on my mind. I'm thinking, I'm going back. I'm going back. And then COVID hits. What am I supposed to do? I'm quarantined. I'm in this place. Everything shut down, and we were supposed to go that summer. And that desperation even hit more. I'm thinking, man, I want this really bad. But yet again, I'm not in control. And I just laid my everything down. I thought, you know what? I'm going to live life. I'm going to focus on the things that keyword I can control and then let God do the rest. So desperate times did happen. Tears happened. But you know, I just had to let things go. I had to let everything
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So I should have asked you this earlier on. I'm just I'm looking at the arc, right, at the
Yeah.
story. So, how old were you when your dad um uh, gave you that bear hug under the bed?
I was about 6.
About 6,
Yeah,
right?
about 6.
Okay. And when you had the big softening moment around
About a year
God,
later.
yeah,
Yep.
about a year later.
Yep.
So yeah, so at 7,
Hmm.
you'd become a Christian at 7.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then you had all this, the pain continued.
It continued.
The
Just didn't
pain,
stop then. Yes.
but the pain continued. And so what was the next kind of big, you talked about inflection points, did you? Mile markers and
Mhm.
monumental moments. When was the next kind of big change
Man, big
for
change.
you?
Yeah. So around 6, and then at 7 became a Christian. And you know, when I was about 10 years old, so I was homeschooled. So my parents,
Yeah,
obviously when somebody is coming to a new place, you don't they thought I don't want to just throw you into school.
yeah,
I don't want to throw you into school because you don't know the language, you don't know anything, and they just kept me home and my siblings as well.
yeah,
And I grew, learned English, but they decided to send me to public school, kind of like the public world and
right.
everything. And that's when I really questioned who I was. And I remember I remember this moment where my mom was white and I was black, and people just kept asking. They said, "Man, what happened there?" And I'm thinking, "Man, what do you think happened?" And no, people didn't know adoption. I mean, adoption's not in people's
Mm,
minds oftentimes, and when they kind of give you a little, weird little side look and what's going on, and I just kind of got tired of people asking me that question, so I became bold about my story. And that mile marker changed a lot of my perspective. That I was proud to be adopted, that I was proud to be in this white family, in this water family, that you can be excited about you and who you are. And that's when I just, put, you know, I had pride. I mean, I had pride of who I was, who God made me to be, and that just really changed a lot of my perspective.
yeah,
So that mile marker made me from being somebody who was shy about who I was. You know, I always say oftentimes if my parents were at a distance, I'd kind of give them a weird look down, look back. Who are they? I don't know. I'm black, they're white. People probably couldn't tell. Let's just move on. But I became proud of them. So I became proud of my Ethiopian culture, my American culture, and it just became a marker where I was just happy with who I was. I became really happy. And something that you said is that just because I became a Christian does not mean my pain went away. I always tell people your pain became purposeful, meaning my pain, my anguish, it brought me hope, I had hope within it. Because, in the Christian world, people think just because, you become a Christian, life is all roses and everything. Life's still hard. But I suffer with hope, and that mile marker at the age of, I believe, about 10 years old, of 10, 11, it just made me be happy of who I was instead of being bashful. And, when you're bashful as an adoptee, uh, it, 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 it really hurts your mind because
yeah,
people are, with the title of this podcast, are thriving. Why am I not thriving? Well, maybe I realized that I just was being bashful of who I was. And once you're not bashful, you just can
yeah,
thrive. Keyword.
yeah. Do you remember the moment that happened? Was there
Oh,
a
yes.
particular moment? Yeah. Okay. Do you want
Yes,
to
yeah.
share
So
that? Yeah.
yeah, well, uh so in school, first day, who are you? And that's honestly an adoptee's worst nightmare because seriously, I mean, you're thinking, who am I? What am I? Who am I? Where do I come from? It's a nightmare. And I remember I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna let everything go. I want to tell everybody my story. I'm gonna tell them who I am because I just thought I knew this is gonna come up over and over, especially when my mom comes and helps with the school. And they said, Isaac, you're up. And I said, okay, well, my name is Isaac Melber, born in East Africa. My name used to be Meseretu Belete. I was born in a small little village where death was prevalent and pain was normal because we just didn't have things that we needed. But I get sent to an orphanage at the age of about 4 years old, and then I'm in this family that loves me, that cares for me, that put the Bible and God in front of me. That's who I am. I'm both and.
Yeah.
And that moment, it felt it was awesome because the crazy part was my teacher called my mom and said, "Did this happen to him?" Because people don't believe. Seriously, people don't believe. They think that there's no way he's telling the truth. And,
Brilliant.
and that's what my
Brilliant.
teacher did. She literally had a meeting with my mom, which is hilarious. She said, "Is he telling the truth?" And she said, "Yeah,
Yeah.
all this happened to him." And she said, "Wow." And in that moment, my mom and I just laughed, and I talk about this briefly in the book. She says, "Why did you share?" And in my innocence, I say, "Well, I'm tired of people asking me why you're white and I'm black." And so we just laughed about it. And that mile marker, that moment of me sharing my story in front of my class, it changed everything.
Change them.
It changed everything.
Yeah. Wow. Feels like a great place to bring it in, Isaac.
Yeah.
Good on you. Thank you, listeners. We'll speak to you again very soon. Take care. Bye bye.